A free event will take place Saturday to help young men of color find new pathways to success. The initiative is being organized by a group known as MEN, that's for the Male Engagement Network. The program was formed by the Local Initiative Support Coalition in partnership with community-based nonprofits. To tell us about the event is a member of the network and a recruiter with the Quadman Square Neighborhood Development Corporation, Jared Johnson. Thank you very much for being with us, Jared.
Thank you for having me.
First of all, this is about pathways to success, but I guess it's pathways to help people get over those hurdles. So what kind of hurdles are we talking about here?
Absolutely. So we're looking at again, a lack of use of the existing resources. So we know that men, particularly men of color, are less likely to access health services, especially when it comes to things like mental health. We're also looking at barriers to success like job readiness skills, and helping them get their finances in order. And then we're also looking at housing instability. We know that the Boston housing market is very tight, very expensive, and so one of the things we're looking at is are there ways that we can tackle homelessness or housing instability, especially for men of color with CORI issues, because we know that that's a very sensitive topic.
Well, we'll start with, I guess, the health issues, because one thing about, I think, all men is that we're very reluctant to talk about some of the things that are fairly normal as health problems, and yet by not talking about them as problems, they don't get solved, I guess.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, we've got a real focus on mental health, because we know that, stress, and that's the stress from sometimes being the sole breadwinner in the household, or stress from from divorce or from being separated and having those difficulties, along with just the stress of racism, actually. All of those can impact both your physical health and mental health. And so we're really trying to shine a light on that, and let folks know that it's okay to come and talk about these things. And so we actually have two levels. We have, across the three neighborhoods, we have men's groups, and that's for anybody. It doesn't matter kind of what your mental state is. You can be doing, just fine, or you can be kind of really going through some stress. And it's just a place for them to come together, talk with other men. We share resources, and then if there are men identified at those gatherings that want a little bit more support, we've got connections with local community health centers, and we can get them plugged into mental health services.
And I take it you're talking about a whole spectrum here. It could mean anything from the kind of rough patch that anybody could go through to things that have to do with trauma from violence, or even some of that reinforced stress that people experience when they're in incarceration.
Absolutely, absolutely. And like I said, and even poverty itself, can really cause a lot of undue stress that can affect your mental health. And absolutely, it's working on those really acute things, but also just helping folks have the tools to weather those rough patches. Because absolutely, for folks who see a doctor regularly, or maybe see a counselor regularly, the little small bumps in life are just that. They're small bumps because they have those tools, they have someone to talk to. But for someone who doesn't have those resources, those small bumps can really become something major.
This is BNN News, and we're talking with Jared Johnson with the Male Engagement Network. Jared, talk about what you're trying to do with this event, because it seems like a lot of it's about people you're trying to help, but also people you want to be helpers.
Absolutely. So this event that's happening on Saturday it's a great opportunity for, like I said, for men to come together to realize the strength that exists, in our own community. Because you're absolutely right. It's not just about providing services. It's about building the men up to be leaders. And we really, want to make sure we're not going with the deficit-based approach. We really want to make sure that we're recognizing the resources that exist in that community, and be those, clinical resources, or resources at local nonprofits, but also just men that can be mentors to other men. And so that's what, the small groups that have been happening are about, and that's definitely what this event with Breakfast for Brothers is about. Breakfast for Brothers is a great It's a great existing program that is all about that, all about bringing men of color together to both hear from experts in the field, but also just to fellowship and just to make connections.
Explain the mentoring practice, because we've heard about adults mentoring children or teenagers maybe, but talk about this adult to adult kind of relationship.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, a lot of it is just about having someone to talk to. We find a lot of times that men, have people that they see at work and their coworkers, and then maybe their spouse or their partner, but don't really have a whole lot of people that they can confide to outside of that. And so, with this mentor, kind of relationship that we're trying to foster, it's less about one person knowing a whole lot more than the other. It's just more about having someone that is of a similar background. They can kind of understand their experiences, and just someone to kind of talk to them.
Talk about some of the recruiting that you've been doing in your work with the Cobb & Square NDC, what you've learned from that.
Absolutely. So we've had a number of men's groups, and we call them our Cafe on the Road series, and we partner with with a local restaurant there, the Next Step Soul Food Cafe. Been a great help in letting us use their space. And we've talked about financial stability. We've talked about health. We've talked about housing. We've talked about health inequalities. And one of the really great things that we've gained from that is learning a whole lot of new resources. And even as someone who works in that community, has been there, 2 years now. There's so many people at local churches, at the health center, all sorts of different groups that are doing things to support men of color. And so it's just a really great that we've had that opportunity to get to know them, and we hope to, through this initiative, to boost their profile and to find new ways to partner with them.
I want to ask you about people who have a stumbling block over CORI, that is criminal records. For many people, I'm sure it's very frustrating when potential employers, they just invoke the formula and they decide they see something and say, I'm not going to hire that person. How do you help people get around that?
Yeah. One of the things that we do at Cobb & Square is we have a CORI-friendly job fair. So we've actually identified a number of businesses that are saying, you know what, we're going to take a second chance, we're going to give folks a second chance, and realize that a lot of the folks who have CORIs, they made a silly mistake when they were younger, but we're not going to let that get in the way of finding a good quality candidate. So we have employers that are willing to do that. Another thing we're looking at is, and this is going to take a little bit of time, but we're looking at, are there ways that we can provide housing for folks with CORI issues, because we know that can be a disqualifier for certain types of housing. And there have been a couple of areas around the country where HUD has given a waiver, or there are different funders who are interested in that particular problem.
Because one of the other things going on here is this is a program where the Local Initiative Support Coalition is teaming up with nonprofits along the Fairmont corridor. So this is about an area, there could be some more displacement, but there could also be some more opportunities for people too.
Absolutely. And the Common Square Neighborhood Development Corporation, as well as New Western Comunidad and ABCD Mattapan, those are the three partners that are involved in this initiative. They're a big portion of the work that they do is around anti-displacement, and is around making sure that as the Fairmont line gets developed, that we're taking advantage of that increased transit, and building that for people that actually live there now.
Which brings me to remind our viewers that this is going to be right on the line, right next to Weapons Corner Station.
Yes,
right?
Yes, right there at the Kroc Center. So no RSVP needed. Just come out, and it's the program is really geared toward men 25 to 55, but this event in particular is open to men of all ages, and even the MEN work that we're doing, that's our focus area, but of course we welcome men of all ages. Absolutely.
And this is going to be 8:30 in the morning at the Kroc Center until about what?
Until about 10:30 or 11.
Okay. And by the way, if people want some more information about the network, you've got a place where they can look that up?
Facebook.com/Male Engagement Network.
Network. Thank you very much, Jared Johnson from MEN. In a moment, we'll tell you about this year's garden tour in the South End.